The following episode may contain spoilers for the game Frosthaven. Welcome to episode 23 of our board game podcast, Master's Degree and Rolling Terribly. I'm your host, Deddy. Joining me as my co-host, a man who has said goodbye to his swarm of bugs and the easiest class in the game, the Germinate. Gaz! Say bye, Gaz.
It's a sad day. Bye-bye, bugs. You're my favorite bugs.
Yeah.
And I know they were Phil's favorite every time I wounded him or muddled him or poisoned him.
So that one's going to come a little bit like out of nowhere, right? It's kind of like, I actually was like editing something from a couple of episodes ago, and you were like, I'm not, I don't want to go to Robot Land because I don't want to retire anytime soon. And maybe this was like 4 episodes ago or something. And then boom, it happened.
I think, I think I got enough of it. And I think I got kind of at the point where I was like, all right, I think I've got enough out of this class to feel comfortable to retire. I think I got to level 7, so I only had 2 more levels of cards to come up. And it just felt like the right time. Like we were going down the robot chain, so I was kind of at the point where I'm like, well, I'd have to avoid killing the specific robots I need to, which then seems silly, because then to do it, we might have to come back and do the scenario again, and that just seems really dumb. So,
yeah, no, fair enough. Well, yeah, it was kind of like the group kind of expected it at some stage soonish, knowing that we were heading down the robot path. But I guess in a way, it wasn't really mentioned on the episodes so much that, as something that may be creeping up. So it's kind of like at the start of this episode, it's kind of like, hey, it's happened.
Well, what's funny as well is that, and without going into the details of the personal goal to not spoil that, but, there is a robot monster that you need to kill. Like we went down the elevator and I was just like, oh, robots. I'm like, oh, these are not the robots I'm looking for.
No.
Right. So I really should, as a Star Wars fan, should have said these aren't the droids we're looking for. But, missed opportunity.
I said that last week.
Did you?
Yes.
Oh, I completely missed that. So, sorry, I should have laughed harder.
No, yeah, you should have.
I promise I won't make that joke now. Okay? The thing that I said that I was going to.
Sure, I'll cut it out.
Yeah, cut that. But then the Beyblade dropped down and was also not the right robots. And so I was just like, oh, okay, sure. Maybe they're just not here, right? Maybe we have to go somewhere else. And then you put them down. I'm like, oh, that's the robots. That's the robots.
One. You're like, is that a bolt shooter or something like that?
Yeah.
And you got really excited. So on today's episode, we're going to be covering scenario 25, the Rusted Tunnels, which is a yellow linked from the elevator, because thematically we got off the elevator and we've hit the bottom and we decided whether or not we were going to head towards the alarm or we were going to go the sneaky beaky way. And I think Gaz from the previous like in person said something about straight towards the light, straight towards the flashing, straight towards the alarm. And you weren't even here when we were setting up the scenario, but even Phil was like, yeah, we're going straight for the alarm, remember? And I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. So we just set that one up.
I think I had a feeling because I remember we had an option back way back at the start where we were going through the ice, the mountains and stuff like that with the Algox. And it was like, do you want to go through the front door? Do you want to go the sneaky way? And we're like, oh yeah, let's go the sneaky way. And it was like, you go the sneaky way and have to fight your way through. And like, what? Hang on, it's not the sneaky way. So I figured if they're going to make us fight our way through, we may as well just barrel straight through the alarms in the front door, right?
Yeah. It'd be interesting whether or not they've incorporated. We haven't obviously done all the scenarios and seen all the mechanics, but could they have done a stealth scenario?
Still a stealth mission.
But based on the elevator one with the tokens, can you imagine how many tokens go where to determine how much sound you're making?
Oh, there you go. All right, pull out a game of Nemesis, okay, and play that to completion.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. So, yeah, we went to scenario 25. We also do an outpost event where we have multiple people level up and we retire a Geminate. We get a new building because of said retired Geminate, which is really exciting. And we're going to have a little look into the world of the solo scenarios because I want to have a little chat about this towards the end because it was something that I never thought I'd do. And now we're starting the planning process of seeing who wants to get their solo scenarios done, and everyone's kind of lining up a couple hours before the actual session because they want to try and have a go.
Well, it's because you posted all the items in Discord, and everyone was just like, "Oh my god, I need that! I need that now!"
It was kind of like, look at this item. This is so good. Yeah. But we'll jump into that a little bit down the line.
One thing before we go on, because you mentioned that this was a linked scenario, right? So it's interesting with these linked scenarios. Once we learnt the rule that you have to go back to Frosthaven. So again, I can't remember who that was, but thank you, please, thank you, because we probably would have played that.
It'd still be in summer, to be honest.
Yeah. But this was a yellow linked, which means it's optional whether you want to go back or not.
Yeah.
Right? What's weird is that we were down the bottom of this elevator. When we finished, then just spoilers, I guess. But when we finished this next scenario at the end, we were talking to someone and they were like, "Oh, we can't go back up the elevator. Do you know another way out?" Blah blah blah. And so they took us this other way out, right? I'm like, hang on, but how were we going to get out if we chose not to link? We've just gone down this epic Fatal Fury style elevator fight, and then we got to the bottom, but we could have chosen just to be. Oh no, let's just go back up first.
Town portal.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. The alarm's going off down there. What do you want to do? Do we just go back for a bit? Yeah, we'll just go back.
It's a one-way town portal because we don't actually have to do a road event on the way back. Although, look out next, the 3rd edition of whatever comes out, there'll be a go back event deck. When you're tired and everything, keep your health. Ooh.
Yeah, you don't get your cards back. You just got to fight on the road. Yeah, but that's what I mean. Like, it seemed like the perfect situation to make a red link, right? Because a red link is you have to.
It's a force link, right
yeah. I feel like it was the perfect situation for a force link one, but it just didn't seem to be one.
No, maybe later. Maybe after the the bit that we have to read later down the line. Maybe.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know.
You're being really vague, and I think I know what you're talking about, but I don't. So let's just worry about it later.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So scenario 25. All right, we didn't do a road event because we were already there. We went down the elevator, so we kept up with thematics. We didn't go back for any reason. We just jumped straight in. All right, why waste another day when we didn't have to? And I think Mark leveled up from the previous one, so he was a bit sad. He wanted to go back, but that's not something we did. So we set it up, and we got to see a little bit of what we're up against. And this is the part where Gaz got really excited, and I got super excited because why? I got to set up a nice narrow corridor tile. I got to put 2 of the Beyblades, I forget what they're called, hot whippersnippers.
Spinning, yeah, that's it, spinning flames of death.
Yeah, got to put up 2 of those and 3 pyramid heads, robotic bolt shooters. And the minute I put those up, you got really excited.
Oh, I did, yeah, and they've only like 4 health. I was like, yes, yes. Yeah, I'm pretty sure the normals only had 4, or maybe no, 6. They might have had 6.
Yeah. Okay.
But either way, it wasn't 20.
But something squish. Right? Something squish.
Super squish, yeah.
Yeah, and 2 loot tokens for some reason. I think this is the first time I've ever set up loot tokens. And then 2 doors that went separate ways. Done. No letters. No letters all over the place. And it looked clean. And I was super excited. And then you read the scenario goal and it's even more exciting. Scenario is complete when all enemies in it are dead. At the end of that round, read a thing.
That's it. Just
how
kill enemies,
refreshing
right?
was it to have that? It was super exciting.
Yeah.
So we got to experience the brand new, and whenever we get a new machine, I mean, they're 3 at the end, so we know they're probably going to be ranged. It's in their name, robotic bolt shooter. They just sound, like you say, low health, and we don't know what they're going to do, but probably it's going to be long ranged, pew pew. That's kind of it. Possibly scary because they're further along. We have to get through these retaliating big whirly death balls of whatever. And then, it was like round start and you went straight to the back. And I mean, it was like, guys, this is my objective. I really need this right now. I need you guys to die. Phil went to the back and it was just like, I call them meh blasters.
Yeah, they were until they weren't.
Oh.
I feel like their big thing was that they generally hit 3 targets.
Let's hit 4, I think.
Yeah, so they were hitting lots of people, range 4 mostly. I think they had a couple that were 5. Yeah, they weren't that bad. They were attacking for low numbers as well. So yeah, I don't think that they ever posed a massive threat. Definitely substantially less scary than the Algox archers that started at scenario 1 and then 2 and 3 that absolutely booked us, right? Like, if there was 3 of those archers at the back of that corridor, we probably just would have aborted and gone back to Frosthaven. Like, seriously, we're like, how are we going to win this?
Well, but they're probably the last boss of the game. It's just a bunch of Algox archers.
And snow imps. With one shaman.
Oh, God. And wave throwers.
And one...
So Gaz he was mentioning they needed certain robots. He saw that these ones were up there. He really wanted to get these ones done. And he and Phil were having a little chat about it because Phil's got a battle goal that he really wanted to deal with one of them really, really quickly. And they had a little clash, and then they had to negotiate as to who was going to kill what. And then Gaz made a hilarious reference about, don't worry, there should be more of these in this scenario, right? And then we joked about scenario, can't remember the number, with the beginning of this chain where Gaz just needed to kill something on low health, and we got to the final room and it was a polar bear.
Yeah, no, I needed to kill something that was on full health.
Was that yours?
Yeah, my battle. No, well, okay, not on this one. In the one where we ran into the polar bear.
Yeah,
I needed to kill an enemy before it had its turn.
Yeah,
sorry,
yeah.
That was it. And that was one where we blitzed through, and that's the one where we have the recording of me where they fucked me.
Yeah,
that's the one.
Yes.
Yeah, because they beat me by like 2 initiatives, so I didn't get a chance to go before them and kill them, which I would have easily. Because there were snow imps. But I was like, that's fine. There's guaranteed to be more monsters and snow imps in this one. I'll just jump in and do it. And then in the last room, I jumped in with this massive attack, and it's just one polar bear sitting in the middle of the room chilling. And I'm like, I can't. It's only 18 health. I can't do 18 health in one hit. I'm not Phil.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
but what I'm saying is, like, you needed the rune bolters. You needed to kill them. And if you didn't kill them in the first room, there was a chance that these were the only ones in the whole scenario, and the rest was going to be polar bears.
Yeah.
Like at the very end.
There's 2 doors open up, and the polar bears are the puppet masters of the robots. They're like, it's us again.
Always.
Yep.
So the other thing we saw, we got to see, Mark was actually talking to me at the very start when he was like looking through his cards, and I was saying to him, you're going to have a really rough time unless you play a card that deals with retaliate. Because Bone Shaper's got a card that their pets ignore it. And he was like, I don't know, oohing and ahhing. And I was like, no, you need to bring this card. Your guys are just going to neck themselves over and over again on those spinners. You have to. And he did. And it made a world full of difference. What were your initial thoughts? First room, scenario 25, easy?
Yeah, it was cool. Because in the last one, we didn't really get a chance to play around with the blade spinner, Beyblade fire dudes. Because we CC'd them. They didn't move. Actually, on the note of that, someone did contact me on Twitter and mentioned that I think we confused it, or we were talking through it. I think we played it right, but mentioned that they only have range retaliate on one of their cards. They don't have it all the time. Yeah, we did play correctly.
We played correctly. We misspoke.
Yeah, we might have misspoke, or maybe we got the wrong one a couple of times. But anyway, I think that because we didn't really they weren't threatened the elevator. They just appeared, and then we just CC'd them in place, and then we killed them. These ones from turn 1 were drawing, like, I think their first was like not move but attack 5, because I had to make a decision whether I was going to, because I had my retaliate card. I was jumping in and retaliating.
That's right.
I'm like, 5 is a high number.
And I said to you, come on, take it, because he's still going to do damage. You're like, yeah, but that's a lot to take.
It is. Well, and
especially when you have the choice.
Health, I'm like, I was like, I don't know if 5 is a right number to get whacked with in turn 1, because I was already going to get hit by 3 others. So, but no, I think at the start I was like, this is cool. Yeah, nice and simple. This is what we want. Let's kill some bolt thrower guys, and I think it all went pretty well in the first couple of turns.
Yeah, no, it was. If anything, the hardest choice and the most difficult part was that we had 2 doors with 2 separate sections leading to it. And I think we were trying to work out, Phil moved all his shadows towards one door, and then you went and opened the other one.
Because he was sleeping. He was asleep. I was like, well, I'm not going to run. I can't make that other door, so I'm going to go through this door. And he's like, but my shadows. I'm like, but you were asleep. Like, it's not my fault.
Yeah. So
one thing you, just because it probably won't come up later.
Yeah.
You mentioned Mark taking your minions don't take retaliate damage. because of that, those skeletons became the MVPs for killing those blade spinners. Because every time we hit them, we were like, oh, 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 oh. Because retaliate 3 hurts, right? But these skeletons were just walking up, just like wailing on these spinners and not taking any retaliate damage. It was like, oh, it was perfect. Like we actually had a better way of dealing with them, right?
This is why on the Snowflake I have a card that says grant move and attack on 1 unit, and I was like, yeah, go Skelly number 1, always Skelly number 1. But I was like picking him to go hit the blade spinner because I wasn't going to pick any of us for the whole purpose of that retaliate. And they did that at the start. Actually, they once they did their attack 5, they actually strapped on a shield and did a retaliate range 3. You know, their retaliate range 3 thing, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to take that to do 1 damage and push him further across the room. And I ate like a crap load of retaliate damage, which, ended up being really painful to watch my 9 health try and withstand any other damage that was happening. We ended up in this second room, right? And we had special rules. And in the room, we had more rune bolt shooter guys, all right, mare blasters, and we had more Beyblades. And we had a piece of debris in about halfway down this bent corridor. And then we had the special rules. And the special rules was this piece of debris has a certain amount of health. For us, it was 20 health. And then there is a token, I believe, at the back and like a B token midway through the room. And essentially, these Beyblades, at the end of every round, one's going to spawn. It's going to be elite. And they're going to start, obviously, heading towards us. If we can destroy this debris, it's almost like we cause a cave-in halfway through the corridor. And everything underneath it and further behind it is removed. And if it's us, we're just instantly exhausted. And immediately you can kind of piece in, how we were going to deal with that and what they were trying to, get us to do, which I think was really cool. I think from here's your objective, here's a whole bunch of stuff in the way. You've got a timer on this because it's unlimited spawn. How are you going to deal with this?
Yeah, and we've spoken about this, about how do you create urgency to make people do things without making it be like 5 turns and then you die, right? And we've spoken about some of the scenarios that are, hey, here, unlimited spawns forever, go stand over here for a while, which we haven't liked. This balanced those 2 things really well because it gave you could take your time. You're just going to end up with more mobs, right?
Yeah.
Because you had to eventually, it was part of the objective because we have to kill all enemies. So unless we killed everything at the same time with no spawns, it was not going to happen. So I thought it was kind of cool. It did look a little bit scary because there was like 2 Beyblades, a couple of the bolt shooters there. We're like, oh, this is going to hurt a lot. Knowing that they do the jumpy thing, and we were all kind of clustered around that door. So there was a bit of an, oh no moment. But yeah, it was. It looked like a cool way to get us to kind of hurry in there and do something.
Which we didn't. We really didn't go in. Whenever, look, we see a target, there's a giant crosshair on it, and it's kind of like, all right, who's the guy that kills our stuff ASAP? Like the immediate threat target, which in this case was the guy
sleeping.
Yeah,
in the back corner.
Yeah, with all his shadows in the corner.
Yeah,
and we were like, Phil, that's your job. Go in there. He just, I don't know. We were waiting like 3 rounds while trying to juggle with all the crap that was heading to us at the front and deal with all the range. You going in the back and doing sort of stuff. I stood in the doorway and blocked all of Mark's skeletons from coming in because the blades came in. I blocked the door this time, and it was really awkward for me because that caused me to fail my battle goal, which I'll explain later.
What was battle goal?
So I had pedestrian, so I never enter a hex occupied by an ally, enemy objective, or obstacle. Enemy objective or obstacle.
Yep.
So in other words, don't go through anything really, and don't jump over anything. So I got in the doorway and I'm getting my ass handed to me by these Beyblades, and I'm like, let me out. And Mark's like, let us in. So I sat there and I was just like, I reckon, I actually stayed there and kind of was like, I don't want to go further in the room because the runic bolt shooters are already shooting me, but I need to leave, but I don't want to mess up my battle goal.
Is it 2 ticks?
It's 1.
Okay.
Yeah, but I don't have any at the moment. I'm really doing. I need them at the start, so I just didn't know what to do. And then I actually, because I was really copying it, I had to go through Mark and make my way back into the first room, just because I just couldn't. It was annoying him. His skeletons were struggling to get in, And then the guys were just sitting there because this is when they started to do their spinning back and forth. And one of them even ended up in the first room because he flew all the way out on his way to Phil, who was making his way in. And things were starting to get a little hairy, and we hadn't really started attacking. Now that I'm saying this out loud, it's starting to sound like a lot of this was my fault.
Nah, it wasn't. We just, without Phil going in there, I remember being on low HP, kind of, and they were hitting hard. You were getting hit hard. We couldn't get the skeletons in, and that was not completely your fault. But they had gathered around the door, so it wasn't like they could move through you, right?
But they couldn't move through the mobs.
Was there, they couldn't. So, yeah, it was just a situation where it's like I didn't want to go forward to attack the rubble because then I was going to get shot by two of the bolt shooters and probably draw the aggro of the two Beyblades. I was like, well, I'll just die. So I kind of had to hold back and split the damage a little bit and just work it out. So we were just kind of waiting for Phil to get his shit together.
Yeah, pretty much. And he eventually did go in there. I had everyone calling for heals. We're sitting there going, where the hell is Phil? Phil actually went in there, and we actually timed it quite nicely. Like, I ended up going back in towards the room. Mark's skeletons had started to make their way in. Now, obviously, we don't want Mark's skeletons going too far in because then it's a long way back, and also there's a chance that they get crushed when we do take down the debris. So Phil and Gaz, I think the two of them both smashed the crap out of the debris together.
Yeah. And I think you're underplaying your role. You had a massive turn.
Oh, I pushed one of the shooters back.
Yeah, well, there was an elite shooter. So the way that it's all positioned is that there's the rubble, and like Daddy was saying, there's kind of a point where everything beyond that is going to die to it. And most of the mobs were there because we got lucky with the Beyblades. They were getting either low movement or no movement, so we didn't really get any of the elite ones to kind of cross that threshold. But there was an elite bolt shooter, which would, even though we killed the rubble, we would have had to stand there for a couple of turns and kill this thing, right? It's just wasted turns. But Daddy moves forward and just pushes him back into the zone that's going to get destroyed by the rubble just before me and Phil had our turns. So we went really early and did it. We had our turns and crushed the rubble and just destroyed like 5 different robots. So yeah, it was really well done without calling out anything at all because we probably could have coordinated that well.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
If you'd gone late, right, and gone like, oh, I was going to push him into the rubble, the response would have been like, why didn't you just go, hey, I'm going to push him into the rubble?
Yeah, no, that's really true. And this is the second scenario, technically my third attempt, but second scenario with Snowflake. So getting used to kind of what, the pushing and pulling and sometimes the healing and sometimes not. So it's definitely been an interesting learning curve and something I want to have a little chat about a little bit later. So yeah, we basically did that. Head towards the other room. Got ready to do that. And this is where it's interesting because this is around the time where everyone likes to do their long rests and all of that kind of stuff. And Mark's like, well, I'm ready to go. But if Mark opens the door, his pets don't activate first, which then he needs to coordinate with someone else. So it's kind of one of those things that we're sort of also getting used to is an aggressive bone shaper who really wants to go in. And we opened the door and it was kind of like a mirror room to the one we just cleared. Except we didn't have the Beyblades, we had the ruined machines. So the ruined machines are our old, pardon? Exploded boys. Yeah. Except this one had more of them and was spawning 2 a turn. So this one made me a bit more worried. Probably more so, but also just seeing how long it took us to deal with the other one.
Yeah, I was worried when we opened it for a couple of reasons. One, I knew that the ruined machines move 2 to 3 usually, and because there was so many of them at the start and they were spawning so quickly, where we were all running a bit low on cards, or at least I was, and I know Phil was. We were a bit far back. I don't know about you, but
yeah,
like it was we weren't like, oh, we're done on cards. Sorry, we still had plenty of turns left, but we were looking at like 6 to 8 mobs that had spawned with 2 more each turn and having to burn through this 20 health. And I was just worried that they're all going to push past that threshold. And then even if we killed the rubble, we're still going to have to deal with like 6 of those like robots. And they've got a decent amount of health. And they're annoying to kill because you get them low and then they blow up, right? And they draw the blow up card, which we talked about kind of at length last episode. So, yeah, I looked at it when like, I don't know how this is going to work. We were counting hexes going like, because I had a really big attack I could have done on it, but I was 1 square short. There was
yeah, you thought I was
bolt-
moving you. I even asked. I remember saying, "Do you want me to move you?" And you're like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah," and then I completely did something different.
Yeah, so, but then even you were looking at it going like, oh, I need that square, because there was only 1 free square to attack the actual thing.
Because
there
it
was
filled
all
up
these
so fast.
extra pieces that were looking at this room going like, in a vacuum, it didn't look that hard, but just where we were positioned and what we had to go with, it was like, oh, this could go really poorly. But I think the first turn after we jumped in there, the robots drew don't move, like just stand there and do nothing, right? So we were like, oh, okay, they're not moving forward. That bought us some time.
Yes, thinking back to the last few scenarios as well, have all been repeat ones, right? We've all, we've had to repeat them. So looking at this room and getting a bit low on cards, like you say, this is wouldn't be the worst one in the world to repeat, but we don't want to do 3 weeks in a row of having to repeat the scenario again just to beat it. We really wanted to one-shot this one. So there was that added pressure, and this, after the room and they did nothing, this is kind of where we probably took the longest, and I definitely took the longest turn possible, because I was planning on going in. I made wind, and I was planning on going in with my 8 move and trying to work out where to land. Now, they have an X card. Snowflakes have an X card that is a giant snake. A giant snake that pushes things, especially if they consume wind, gets XP, and does a fair bit of damage. And in the previous round, I prepared for this by using Snowball, which is kind of like a Drifter one, where it's kind of like the persistent ability or token starts on a 0, and you add 0 to your next attack, and then on the next attack it adds 1, and then on the next attack attacks 2, and then 3, and then 4. So in a big AoE situation, it is going to pound. And this room is full of ruined machines, the debris, and these bolt shooters, and I could fit like 3 things in my snake. Like, it was ridiculous because it was just going in and out between them. So this is the one where I was like, look, I need this to go to this exact spot. We planned everything out. Took forever because I'm sitting there rotating. We had a full Geminate moment, and I was even, showing Gaz my snake and just saying, how do we, and we were rotating it around to try to work out where it would go and line up. And everyone was contributing to try and get this off. I'm not helping myself right now. Sorry.
What do you mean?
Because I was showing Gaz my snake. Everyone was rotating it around. Everyone was helping me try to get it off.
Yeah, everyone had an opinion about which way your snake should go, how you should use it. Whether it was big enough, whether it was going in the right direction. Yeah. So yeah, no, it was a group effort.
Not above dick jokes. But anyway, no, we went in. I went in and to do this, and it was great. I got to hit 3 things, and I was asking Gaz, with AoE, can I pick the order that I hit in? And I hit the first one for a bit of damage. I think it was 4, actually, base damage of 4 or something nice. And then, hit the next thing, and then it got to hitting the debris, right? I was planning this to go in, land a fat hit on the machine, push on the debris, push a few things back, and maybe sacrifice myself. That was the whole thing, because I was already getting quite low, and I was like, look, all we need is one person. The person that can push them in an AoE situation probably be an amazing one, right? Get in there, push everyone back, hold the door, everyone kills the debris. I don't care if I go down.
And the robots had drawn their move, attack, explode card that turn. So you were definitely going to get hit for lots.
Yep.
Definitely.
So it got to drawing my card. I was doing 6 damage on the debris, and I pulled my miss. And it was like a massive throwback because it really upset me so much. Not only for DPS meters, but just because it was going to obviously make, that win condition a little bit closer. And it kind of felt a little bit like, you want to go out like a hero, and I went out like an idiot. Don't worry, guys, I got this. He runs into, which Stark kid is it? I don't know. You just go in there and just get booked. And that's pretty much what happened to me. And everyone came over and booked me. But, I got to essentially hold them back for like a round, just a little bit.
Yep, you did. Yeah, you went full Operation Speed Hump. Now, it would have been Operation Speed Hump with a big fat damage on our objective. But but you missed.
I
So
did.
therefore, it was just back to regulation speed hump.
Oh.
But it was a really effective speed hump. It slowed them down. Again, they were all bunched up behind that kind of key line, and it gave us the opportunity to go. All right. Daddy did 0 damage to it, which is a lot lower than we were hoping. So,
well, look, they
we
walked up and they hit me and did the explosion. I exhausted, right?
Oh,
this was the round I exhausted.
Yeah.
I exhausted everything else just to, stay alive as long as possible and hold everything back. So I was dead.
Yep.
Then there were 3.
And
then old mate,
Phil
went all, look at me, watch what I can do. Shadows.
Yep.
I think he stood on my corpse.
Yeah, he said, that's not a hero. This is a hero.
Yeah.
Or that's not how you die.
And
Hold my beer.
He ruined the debris, but at the same time, like, he died as well because, the ceiling comes down, the beam comes down, everything past the thing dies, perfect, and Phil goes out, and everyone is applauding it, and I'm sitting there like, why is he the hero? I did the same thing. Now, I didn't kill the debris, I missed, but I had the idea to sacrifice myself first. And he literally was just like, hey, that looks cool. If I do that and also do the debris, and everyone's just applauding him. And he's just sitting there feeling like a martyr, like a hero. And I'm sitting there like, leftovers. He took my moment from me.
Yeah, it's amazing how, like, sacrificing himself and doing heaps of damage to the objective was received better than not.
It's the thought.
No, I know. You got unlucky. So it was a bit funny, though, because he hadn't realized that he was going to die, which is actually something we didn't talk about. And I had to get you to reread the rules when we were reading it out, because most of them, like we did the elevator one, where if you're on the platform and it goes away, you get pushed to the next thing and take trap damage, right? Most things are like that, like stand in the wrong place, get hit, take trap damage. But your reading is like, and any player that's there is exhausted. And I was like, whoa. Go back over that one. Exhausted is a really important word, right? And you just insta-die, which, I mean, thematically makes sense because the whole thing's caving in on you. But the game usually doesn't do that.
No, it moves you and just says you take damage. But I guess it's to stop you from literally doing with a shield, like a drifter with the shield too, sitting in the back and just going, don't worry, I'll just take trap damage and get swung back in.
Yeah, well, with the first room as well, I think there was a choke point. So you could just move up there and stop them from coming through as you kind of held them back. So it definitely was interesting because then he was dead and then there were 2. Luckily, there was only 2 robots left, and Mark had a lot of cards on his Bone Shaper left and had a couple of skellies. And
skeleton number 1 was still up.
Yeah.
And this thing was already running around critting everything as well.
I think I had 2 cards, or maybe I had 4. I think I had that turn and one more turn after that. So I was like, this should be okay.
Yeah, and it was. We dealt with the remaining 2, so there were 2 left standing. Everyone cheered for Phil and everyone else for getting the job done. I brought up that I did push that one in the first room back. I got a golf clap, and that's all good. So a cleaner kill all with minimal admin. How did we like that?
I loved not having all that admin. We kind of had shades of it in the last room where we had about 8 or 10 of those blowing up boys. That was a little bit of okay, we have to go around here. But again, that's the game. Yeah. You don't mind that when you have it that occasionally. So I thought it was pretty cool. I thought it was thematic. The mechanics of those rooms worked really well to, like I said, make you do something, but also kind of set the scene for where it is.
Add the pressure with the timer.
And I'm noticing that a little bit, like we had that in the Orbu scenario.
Yeah.
And where we were like, oh yeah, just go open the door, Phil, it's fine. And then it was like, open the door. Oh, if this dude right here at the end dies, then you lose. And we're like, oh, we're really far away. So I think maybe I might try to remember and make some suggestions that if we're going to open doors, make sure we're ready, because this is kind of started to happen a fair bit where it's like, you don't get to open doors and just chill.
Door open timing is really hard though, because people are usually either needing a rest, a short rest or whatever. They're in the wrong position. They're not quite up there yet. it's hard to line that up. And then you wait a round or two for those people to have the long rest, but then other people don't have the right cards they need. It's kind of really and then, we all plan to open a door and then Gaz opens the other one. So, there's a lack of communication.
No plans.
Yeah.
There was no plans at all. We had this one asleep death walker who was just like mumbling in his like dreams about, doors, open doors, shadows, lots of damage, purple crit cards. And we were like, all right, well, let's just open this other door. Who's that guy, right? So
yeah,
it all worked out.
So when we finished this one, we didn't get any other scenario on top of that. We rescued a Quattrel who passed out and we needed to get out. So we TP'd back to Frosthaven as you do. And we discovered that it actually locked out scenario 26. It says it in the conclusion. And we didn't see this in the flowchart. Now, I think Dwarf, who's probably the guy who wrote the FAQ, and he's very helpful in the Frosthaven Discord. He actually has that in the FAQ about how they're inclusive or exclusive. You can only do one or the other, essentially. And I had read that in the past. It just completely forgot going into this. So when we was deciding on doing this scenario, I didn't actually say to everyone, we can only choose between this one and that one. So we have to really decide which way we're going to go. So it's unfortunate that we've now locked ourselves out of 26, but at the same time, I'm curious as to what this is going to mean, and I know that I've been talking to other people in other groups, and they've gone the other direction, which is really cool because it's going to be interesting to see kind of how campaigns, I guess, really do differ.
Well, you were telling me about it. It sounds shit. I think we made the right decision. Like, it sounds like we would have had a horrible time.
Look, scenario 26 does sound pretty not as fun.
No, nowhere near as fun. Like the opposite of fun, like anti-fun, more admin and crap like mechanics to deal with. So we dodged a massive bullet and chose correctly.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
But I guess we'll never know because, with ancient artillery firing from range, who knows? So, battle goals. Also, congratulations to the group. We actually did that in one go, so we're back to our old ways, which is super exciting. I can't wait to continue the trend of that. Phil had Executioner. So Phil had to kill an undamaged enemy with a single attack action, which is what he was trying to do in the first round against those rune bolters, bolts, throwers, pyramid heads. And this is where you needed to kill them as well, so it was kind of awkward. And then you did a little AoE thing or retaliate thing.
I did my retaliate thing. I didn't realize because I just jumped over there and did my retaliate. It's like, so after that turn, they were all not damaged. I mean, they were all damaged. So yeah.
Yeah. So he didn't. Now I feel like he had probably other opportunities, but obviously when the first room we unlocked, he was sleeping, and in the second one he was too busy being a hero. So I guess he forego his. I do think though he is maxed out. Surely.
Yeah. Surely. Does he have any left to get?
I don't.
He must be done.
No, other than his mastery, which he's made threats that he's going to try and do now that he has no idea how to do it. But yeah, no. So he failed that. Gaz, what did you have?
I had burn 2 cards before your first rest.
Yeah, Daredevil. Why is it still there? I keep feeling you get this.
I think I got it before we were doing the variant where we were getting rid of cards because I definitely have had this one before.
You keep saying that.
Yeah, no. I swear. Well, I'm giving the card to someone. If it comes back to me, it's not my fault. So
yeah, okay.
No, this is only the second time I've had it. But I always talk about it because I really like it, and I think other people have had it. I think Phil has had it, and he didn't do it because for him to burn 2 cards that early we've seen it's really bad.
Oh, that's the one he did on scenario 22, isn't it?
Maybe
where he burnt 2 cards really early, and we're like, why? And then he ran out of cards before we went downstairs, and it was kind of like. And he failed. We failed.
Oh, that's right. I was just wondering why it would have gone back in the stack.
Yeah,
but because we failed, it goes back through. So yes, that's exactly it. But I mean, as the Geminate, like you love that one because most of your cards are burn cards anyway. You're going to get through them. You can definitely. If it was burn 2 cards in the first round, then it's a bit tricky. But before your first rest, like that's so easy.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I was a big fan of that one. Doesn't mean anything now because I retired, but whatever.
Mark had pin cushion. Be targeted by attacks from 3 or more enemies in the same round. He was like, does that count for my skeletons? I'm ready to be told it doesn't. Sorry, it does. But we was like, don't think so. It's kind of like you be targeted by attacks of 3 more enemies in the same round, which, by the way, I probably would have succeeded with. But no, he didn't get that one. Quite a hard one for a Bone Shaper to get, to be honest. I had Pedestrian, so that's the one that never enters a hex occupied by ally and enemy obstacle or objective, which I gave up. So I've currently not gotten a single tick.
Are you tickless?
I'm unbelievably tickless. I've got perks from obviously my level and everything, but I'm gonna need to start cooking some behavior so that I can get some of these, just so I can start getting those heals out that everyone seems to want so badly.
Yeah, well, you didn't do any of them.
I did healing.
You chose. Did you? How much?
12. Yeah, apparently 12.
It's
more than Phil's 4. All right.
It is, because he still has that scroll that does 5.
I'm not too sure why he's not using it anymore.
Free action. He could just heal someone for 5 at any time. And
no. Now, this time, because on previous episodes we give Phil a lot of grief and he then listens to the episode, he started this week's episode scenario looking at us all in the eye, swore a couple of times and said, if you want your stats written down correctly and accurately, tell me. Look me in the eye and give me your details, whether it's damage taken, healing done, etc. Otherwise, I might miss it. And he was very clear on that. So everyone started making really, really awkward eye contact with him as we're giving him our details. So these must be very accurate.
Oh, 100% accurate, right? Like,
definitely. So let's look at damage. Our Deathwalker did 63. Looking at them, yeah, it's fairly run-of-the-mill. No Bane, interestingly enough. He probably didn't... Well, it's not really a Bane scenario. There's no real target that he would have wanted the Bane, right? Not with Endless Spawn.
He might have said that he's not not tracking that now as
Good.
well.
That's what we want. Otherwise, we need to track my pull. I didn't pull anything, by the way. I pushed. The Germinate on 47, which these seem like really good averages, right? We see these kind of things. Bone Shaper with 36, 35 of which came from the Skeleton Army. So, it's really cool to see. And it was interesting because Mark was saying that, actually, no, that was on the solo scenario. So I'll get back to that.
Just on his damage, he took the Poison Cloud, Stink Cloud, whatever it is, which means that anytime him or his minions get attacked, the attacker gets poisoned and then the attacker takes damage. It did a lot of work in the first 2 rooms, but then we got to the 3rd room, had the rule machines, and they can't be poisoned again.
Yeah.
So I think that card itself, with his strat about having lots of skeletons and plus his buff one that gives them more health, I can see that card there doing so much work. Right, in some of these scenarios, we're going to come up when things can start being poisoned, because it's just the chance to. Not only does it help our damage because we're going to, increase everything, but that's going to tick really quickly.
Yes. No, I think that. Well, that actually happened in the first room because I'm looking at the damage that I did on the Drifter with a line going through it with SF written above it. So that must be me. There's the part in the first room where I think one of the Beyblades got poisoned, and then I commanded the skeleton number 1 to hit it, and I think it was when Mark buffed it or something like that. So he hit for 4, and then he pulled a crit out of his deck for my hit, and I was like, "That's my damage." And then he was like, "Oh, I don't know about that." And I was like, "No, I commanded it, so it's going on my sheet." So I got an 8. So technically, looking at this, I got the biggest hit, and I'm gonna take that.
It was with Mark Skeleton.
Yes. So I did 25. All right, 25, which is really good for a support that didn't really heal much. Damage taken, Deathwalker took 7. Germinate took 28. Block 2, which is pretty good. You also discarded the card for 4 of that at some stage. Our Bone Shaper managed to take 37 and block 3 of it. He did not discard a card to mitigate any of it, so that's some clean tanking. I took 31. That's a lot.
But at the end, you were just like a pincushion, right?
Yeah, well, I discarded 5 cards to mitigate 18. So that's what happened to me. So healing, Deathwalker with 4. So less than his 1 card can do. Gaz had 13. Bone Shaper had 14. And I had 12. So quite nice. quite clean. So we then TP back to Frosthaven because something is going to happen. But before that happens, we go into our event and it was basically an attack. It was just another attack.
Yeah, it was this. Yeah, do you want to go over here and do this thing for the attack, or do you want to go over here and do that thing for the attack? Yeah,
it was one of those. And what made this attack interesting was that before the attack, we made a decision that gave us 2 morale. And I think our morale is getting nice and high now to the point where I think we're defending with 20 or 25 or something like that. And this attack was 15. So it was kind of like...
No, we shit it in.
We're just so good.
Like Algox, who?
Yeah. Like, we just can't be taken. Frosthaven just can't be taken.
Oh, God.
So, bring on. I mean, if this is winter, like, yeah, okay. Yeah.
Next is going to be an army of snow imps. They're going to march on the capital.
Next will be scenario 14 in Frosthaven. We get to doing our downtime, and then we say goodbye to our second character in actually like 2 weeks. So it's kind of like
maybe I got the bug. No pun intended.
That's terrible.
I thought I won't spoil it because people may not have retired the Geminate, but I thought that the because we get with each character, right? You get like a little thing to read that's their story separate to the personal goal.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that the I actually sorry, I've got two lines of thinking here. I'll finish one. I thought the story was kind of cool, what it did, but it was also very like cold. It's just like, no, I think I'm done with you people now. Bye.
Yeah. It's like you guys are cold.
The bugs have left.
I need warmth.
But really coincidentally, right? And I love when these things happen because we had this with the robot when we went to go fight robots and got a robot road event, right? We have heaps of scheduled events coming up along our calendar. So written on the little calendar thing where each time we go back, we're going to have 1 or 2 or 3 things pop up. The one that we had this time was Pinto, I think it is. We must have gotten from the last crab adventure we did.
Yeah.
Who's basically build us this submarine thing. And to do it, we need this warmth thing. We got to go to the forest of the light or something like that away where it's really warm. Anyway, that was like, okay, whatever. And then we got that event because he's like, oh, hey, yeah, go over there and get this thing. And then I read mine and my Gemini was like, yeah, you know what? It's really cold. I don't like it here. I'm going to go to that cool, really warm forest
that I literally just heard
of.
Yeah.
I heard this guy talking about this warm place. That sounds heaps better than here. I'm booking it.
Just like
it kind of worked. Yeah, it just worked really well. I was like, oh, okay, that's that same place, I guess. And then at the end, it's like, you will probably never see me again. And then it's like, oh, I don't know. I'm pretty sure we're going that way as well. Is this that awkward thing where you say goodbye to someone and then walk the same way?
Yeah.
You're going to like walk out of town and the Geminate's like 3 feet ahead of us. It's like, hey, guy, it was really awkward how you just left us.
Yeah, and we're with your replacement.
Yeah, giant crabbian.
Yeah, well, what did you make?
Yeah, I made the coral, so the giant crabbian.
You did.
I mean, how are we doing? We're just going to go with spoilers, right? Like, people at this point have bought into the fact that we're going to talk about unlocks and things like that?
Yeah, I dare say so.
Yeah. So the giant crabbian, it sounded cool. When we were picking between coral and kelp, that originally, if anyone remembers back when we were like, okay, what are we going to do? I said coral because I think it sounded really cool. It was going to be a big, cool crab thing. I had no idea, by the way. And then both Deddy and Phil chose to say kelp just to spite me. Did get a few people message through say coral was the better choice as well, without again any reasons. And yeah, I had a read through the cards. I haven't played it yet, but it seems really cool. Like, I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think we all are. I think because I'm still playing around with the snowflake and trying to work out how everything's working and all of that. Now you've got it's going to be a very interesting dynamic shift because like we've lost Drifter now, we've lost the Gemini, right? So we know so much about how they work. It's now we're stepping into a bit of an unknown, and that's kind of when you retired. Phil technically could retire sometime soon. He's now held off intentionally for group balance. reasons. In that, if we all basically start over, it could be a mess.
Yeah, well, it's like going back to being level 1 again, because that's basically what we are. We're like level 1 or 2. And the tricky thing about it is that it's your health that's so low. It's not really the cards as much. It's that your health is really low. We currently now have, I mean, the coral that I'm playing seems pretty tanky, which is good, but still only got, I think I've only got 10 health, 12 health, which is like a decent amount compared to everyone else in the party, but it's not a lot if you're taking a brunt of, like most of the hits.
Yeah.
If Phil retired and got something that was also squishy, then you start with 6 to 8 health. Like, it just becomes really tricky because you can't take a hit.
Yeah.
Right. So it's probably a good thing. And if he wanted to retire, I wouldn't try to talk him out of it. But it probably is a good thing to stagger them by, a scenario or two at least.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that happened was we unlocked another building. Now, I'm going to mention this particular one because it's actually a big, exciting one. But we can now, we have an enchanter. So that's something from Gloomhaven that we got really, really excited about. And I think when it comes to deciding, I think we're going to go down the temporary variant when it comes to that, just so that we can play. We don't really foresee ourselves playing many of the same characters over and over again. So we're going to go with the one and dusted with the with the enchants that we plan to buy. And that's really exciting. The Phil's already looking into that because he's saved up a fair bit of money. And I think he's going to perhaps deck out his Deathwalker.
Yeah.
Which would be really, really cool. So it's nice to have something that money can go towards. Now, this has got me thinking, now we have all these, buildings and prosperity starting to go up. Resources are going to start to trickle a little bit depending. Because, tonight we barely looted anything, right? Like, we didn't really take much with us. I worry that we are going to have a shortage of resources at some stage from these upgrades. And potentially money-wise, because like lately, the last few ones, no one's buying the resources from the mills and all that kind of stuff. That was me before I was retiring.
Yeah, well, like that's it. I spent some of my money before I retired, but I think I retired with like 40, 50 gold or something like that, which is crazy. So, yeah, look, I think Frosthaven is pretty flush at the moment. Like, it's got a decent amount, but you're right, it could dwindle pretty quickly. Especially if we start having like a big attack, because we've just been really lucky. We've had characters with resources to burn so that we didn't have to damage anything. But yeah, you're right. We could start dwindling and then not be able to build.
An average enchant may be, 30 to 50 gold. And that's not like a low level card potentially,
Yeah, people aren't going to want to spend it on soldiers or wood.
No.
Yeah, you're right.
Or those events that come up where it's like, hey, collectively spend this much money. It's like, but that's shiny enchant, So, look, it could be interesting. We'll just kind of have to see what's going to happen from that. I want to talk a little bit about how I'm going with the snowflake and see if anyone has any input on this. My issue with it at the moment is I like it a lot. I really like what it can do. I think it's incredibly flexible. My issue is it's got a lot of pull cards. Push, I understand. Push, it's, positioning and all of that kind of stuff. There's a lot of ones that are pull, and there are ways that I can obviously consume from Chilling Impact cold and do damage to everything that, we're pulling. With that current makeup, prior to Gaz retiring his Geminate, I was never in a position where I felt like, hey guys, I might pull that over to us, because we didn't really have anyone that wanted anything near us. I'm hoping that may change now that we have Coral, because a lot of the cards, I think I've got more pull cards than I have push, which then made those cards feel kind of dead. And it could just be a positioning thing. Like, I need to learn to jump to the other side of the room so that I can pull things in certain directions and all that kind of stuff. But it is something I'm a little concerned of, because if we had like traps, and if I played a bit more, I guess, around hazardous terrain, I've got more incentive to pull. But right now I don't really have any. And I'm a little worried that I've got a lot of wasted card potential. Or my other option is I forego the whole pulling and pushing thing and head more towards a buffing and healing kind of option. It's still early days, and my cards that I'm leveling up through are still quite general. They're not, I haven't reached the stage where I'm like, oh God, there's a really good heal buff, whatever card, and a really good pull damage, whatever card. But I have a feeling that could come up, and I'm going to want to make a decision about the gameplay, like when I reach that time. So look, I'm more talking out loud and just seeing. Look, I'm more than happy to hear from anyone who's got Snowflake experience, especially knowing our current lineup. But it could already be answered because we have you with a different class now.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to see how it goes. And you're right. I think there was a comment made either by us or someone wrote in to say that the Trapper would work well with the Snowflake because of we don't know what the Trapper does, but I assume it throws traps out, right? And hazardous terrain. So pushing and pulling things around that. So there was a decision I was thinking about, like, all right, do I take the Trapper because it sounds like it might synergize quite well with, your class. But I don't.
No. I don't think that's the right choice. I think that would be too much of the same. I mean, I don't think Geminate and Trap would be the same in terms of the way they play, but I think in the amount of headspace it's gonna be. I think you need a change of play style.
Yeah, because I said it at the time when I was going through the cards, like reading them all and looking at the mechanic, and which I won't go into now. I might talk about that in a couple of scenarios once I know more about how it works. But one of the things that I was most excited about, looking at this, I think I was holding all my cards, and I said to Mark, I'm like, hey, guess what? When it's my turn, I get to pick any one of these 12 cards. I get the 2 of these 12 cards.
That's
it doesn't
amazing.
matter.
Yeah.
If I want to play this card, I just pick it. It doesn't. I don't have to be in the form. I don't have to look at range. I don't have to do anything. I just go, hey, you know what? I want to play this card. I'm playing it. That's it. Decision done.
It's like a new game for you.
Oh, it's brand new. It's going to be like I was playing and didn't realize I had like the advanced settings on the game.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, you can turn that off? Okay. Oh, interesting. Like, so it's, well, even more than that, like one of the cards lets me play a third card every turn. So
yeah,
I'm going to be like,
right.
hey, screw this. You have to jump through hoops to pick 2 cards. I just pick 3 cards.
Yeah, but you can't beat yourself in the face to make fire anymore. You're going to miss that.
Oh, I know, I am. And I also can't poison or wound other people.
Now, that's the other thing is that you and we discovered we had good synergy with our elements and it was really lovely. You've just now killed that. I have to now make my own. Like,
well, but the problem was that we did it once and then he complained about it. So I was like, well, maybe he doesn't really care that much.
No, I didn't appreciate it enough, I think. I kind of just, what do you call it? Taking it for granted?
Yeah,
I took you for granted.
Definitely took it for granted, yeah.
Well, what do you make now?
Light and dark, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think so.
Why is there no water element?
That's a really good question.
There isn't, is there?
I don't think so. No, ice. Ice is the closest, right?
Yeah. There's no water element.
They probably went with ice instead of water because it can maybe be applied a bit more.
Yeah, okay.
There's also not really that many water monsters.
Crabs.
I mean, outside of all the crab stuff that we fought.
All the hundreds of crabs.
No, but like if you think about, because it's come across from Gloomhaven, right? So in Gloomhaven, there wasn't a lot of water stuff.
Yeah.
It was mostly, there was a few islands you would go to, but there wasn't a lot of water monsters. We do have all the crabs in this, so there's kind of a water section, I guess. So there's obviously heaps more now. But yeah, it's interesting.
The last thing I want to have a quick touch on is solo scenarios. Mark or two, actually, yeah.
Just before you jump into that, because I'll let you go with that. I just want to talk about the Geminate really quickly. That's because it'll probably be the last time.
Yeah.
I did look at the level 8 and 9 cards.
Oh yeah.
So just and anybody who's playing the Geminate who's just maybe you're like me, and as you get to the higher ones, they do start to make a bit more sense. That the puzzle starts coming together. You can do some really cool things, like the one that I unlocked last, which was like an attack 4, shield 1, eat. I think an element to turn into 2. Really started to get the engine going really, really well. Push if you have the option, push through and get the level 8 and 9 cards. They are bonkers. Like they are absolutely bonkers.
But they were also simpler to understand, weren't they?
Oh, they were like, do this one amazing thing.
Yeah.
That's it.
No massive hoops or anything.
It didn't have 15 icons on it and arrows pointing out there, and then this like errata rulebook that also came when I opened up. Like it was just like if you're going down that path, I mean, maybe you don't have the option because not all the personal goals are optional, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. When you get to 8 or 9, you're going to have some really, really bonkers cards that just, I don't know. I was reading them and I was handing them around the table going, oh my God, look at this. And everyone's like, oh, wow, you're retiring. So yeah, I just wanted to say that I had heaps of fun playing the Geminate. I think it's really, really cool. I'd encourage people who want a little bit more complexity, but if you are playing it and it's a bit tough at the moment, you got to burn cards, you got to get XP. Once you start hitting about 5 or 6, that's when it really starts unlocking. But yeah, the last few levels, there's some really cool shit in there. So
really worth it. Well, Iron and Wine with your Gym and 8, I think. Yeah, look forward to that. That'll be exciting. Let me know how you go with that when you eventually get there. But yeah, big props from Gaz. He loves his Geminate.
I did enjoy my Geminate time. The only thing I'm sad about is that I didn't get to do the solo scenario. So
yeah, I didn't do that with the Drifter. I mean, that could be something we could play around with one day, but I really can't see that happening.
No. Anyway, using that as a segue.
Yeah, but solo scenario. So this was something that came much later with I got the game, and then a whole bunch of Kickstarter extras came much later, and I've just kind of put it to the side, and I've never really thought about it since. And it wasn't since we were discussing Phil's mastery and how to do that, and people were talking about, the items you get from the solo scenario will really help him with that. And it got me wondering, I saw the pack on the bench and I was like, I wonder what these items look like. And I started looking at them and I'm like, oh, these are really cool, really interesting. And I like the fact that they're very flavorful. And then it got me going, well, how do we get these? I'm not just about to deal these out and go, everyone have one of these, right? Let's have a look at this. And then I had a look at the scenario book. It's really well done. It's really well structured. And it's like everyone has their own scenario and it's all based around them. And they make a point that it's quite difficult, and they recommend, you go at level 5. This is when you get a lot of the newer cards, at least, and, give it a go. But don't be disheartened by the fact that, you may fail a couple of times. They're meant to be seen as a puzzle of how well you know the character or the class. And it's not, you don't have your teammates that you're so used to having around you doing things like tanking and healing and controlling and all that. It's all based around that. So I invited Mark on our last session before we played Scenario 25. He came over an hour or two earlier, and Phil came over as well, actually, because he was thinking maybe he'll get his done as well, but he didn't. We set up the Bone Shaper scenario for Mark, and I couldn't do the Snowflake one because I'm level 2. So I really wanted to do mine. Then I was like, well, I can't. But Mark's level 6, I believe, 5 or 6. So we set his up, and he was like, yeah, this is easy. I'll smash it. Bone Shapers out there who have done this, it looked hilarious how much he struggled with this. The first, and not to mention Mark, dear Mark, our loving Mark, who has listened to all of our episodes and has only joined us recently, he had snow imps in his solo scenario, right? which was amazing because I'm sitting there going, whoa, this is going to be great. Got the popcorn out and I'm sitting there watching. And in the very first room, he summons some stuff and kills them, etc. In the second room, it's a giant room with 2 snow imps and 3 earth demons. And then he's got another room after that, which he has to get to. He had 3 attempts at this thing and got booked in so many different ways. And every time he went in with a slightly different plan. And I'm watching him retry this, and it's really fascinating to see different strategies and different things come out. I didn't think the solo scenarios would be that fun. But weirdly, in a group environment, you're kind of cheering from the sidelines and watching him. I mean, he's going to have to do it again. He didn't succeed. But just seeing kind of how your deck's going to perform and your knowledge about the class and what you can do. And funnily enough, when we were setting up Scenario 25, he said going into it, he's got a better understanding from failing that 3 times of how the Bone Shaper works, right? Because he's only been playing the Bone Shaper for 2 weeks. So it was really, really cool for to see that. Anyways, I just wanted to have a quick chat. Solo Scenario is awesome. Looking forward to doing mine. Looking forward to, I think on Monday, Phil is doing his. So this is going to be amazing. I can't wait.
How is that going to work? Because he has to spend 3 turns ramping, right?
Does he tell
the monsters? Does he say, I can't do anything for 3 turns, so can you just not attack me?
He doesn't have us. And this is what I think he doesn't realize. Unless they're all going to have retaliate, he's in a lot of trouble. So, yeah, stay tuned. I can't wait to give a little report on how our Deathwalker goes in his solo scenario. He's going in incredibly confident for some reason. Now, look, he's been playing it for months now, so you would think he should one-shot this, maybe. But yeah, we will, wait and see.
Yeah, well, if he doesn't one-shot it, he shouldn't get another shot. It's like hardcore. He gets one
it just
goal
resets
at it.
His character.
Yeah, actually, that's right. For every extra attempt, he loses a level.
Whoa. Loses a perk as well.
Yep. Go back down to 0.
All right, I like that. You hear that, Phil? We're doing those rules.
Get variant rules.
Well, I think that's about to wrap up episode 23. Thank you all very much for tuning in and listening to another episode of Amdirt. I've been Deddy. I've been joined again by Gaz.
And remember, when it comes to rolling terribly, it's all in the wrist.
Ice is not a heal for me. Ice is just if I push and pull, it's 1 damage.
Oh, why can't you heal with it anymore?
Because I'm playing a different persistent card.
Oh, you're not playing healer.
No, I'm playing more push and pull. I'm trying to flesh out the character with all the different playstyles.
Okay, so... But you can use ice?
I love ice. Oh, okay.
Whoa. Okay, bonus content.
That's it.
Yeah, I was... alright.
Did I sound keen?
Real keen. Like some of them
You scratched your arm at the time.
Yeah, that was...
Put your teeth back in.
No, I'll make fire. So, eat the light, make fire.
There's got to be a way, right?
I've literally been looking at this for the last fucking 10 minutes. And they're everywhere! And I can't fucking...
Wait. Yeah, Gaz has got it.
Yeah, so it hit that square first.
Yeah.
Then that square. Yeah. And then 1, 2.
Yeah.
And then 1. Right?
Yep.
And then...
That again.
That again, yeah. So you'd end up hitting this one, and that one. And you're there. So push would be there. Then I'm going after you and I can fucking... Are you making everyone move extra?
No.
Oh, no! What?
Nah, I need a spot to go to.
I thought you were making us move extra. Oh, no. Okay.
But yeah, so
Yeah,
you can do it from there.
yeah.
Now, technically, if that's 2 different squares, does it hit every
No,
twice?
I won't hit it
That was
twice.
the same thing.
Yeah. So going there, we'll do all that.
Okay.
You'll hit this one, and that one,
Okay.
and you get to push if you want to.
Yeah. Alright.
That sucks so much.
So
this is on number 10.
Yes. I want to hit the objective last. So this is also an attack. What is it? 4? 4.
4?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
On number 10. Is it that guy? And you can push him if you want.
No, we don't want to
How
push
far?
him.
1.
Nope.
Oh, no, you can say
And then the other guy. Oh no.
So 4? Oh, you're trying to draw your miss?
Oh yeah. What was he?
Where are you? Where do you think you're
Number
moving
2.
to?
I just needed to be next to it so I can hit it.
Can you get
Yeah.
what? Which spaces can you get to?
All of them.
Well, there's only so
There's only one space.
yeah. Okay.
So you move it because then if we crush it, it'll go behind.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. And now your big
Objective.
dig. Have you got any items or anything you can use to make this be better?
No.
Okay.
And that last one I hit takes an extra 1. Alright. And there we go again. So this is currently hitting for 6.
Oh, okay. Nice. Yeah. Oh, you're kidding me!
I just pulled that face just expecting it.
Oh,
Can you imagine that?
Fucking hell!
How can you keep doing that?
Like,
That's amazing.
we've been talking for 25 scenarios about you drawing your miss at the wrong time and it not being funny. That was this time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Fuck, man.
there
That's pretty
we
rough.
go.